The Cowboys are being forced into a massive decision with Mazi Smith as we talk about why his camp is not going well, and another Cowboys player whose stock is going down at camp, but his is for a different reason. All the latest right here on Cowboys Digest, everybody. I'm Jace Andrews. I appreciate you tuning in. As always, make sure you hit that subscribe button. It's 100% free, and we got you covered on the latest on the Dallas Cowboys. Let's get this video started talking about Mazi Smith. Now, a top pick for the Dallas Cowboys, somebody who there was a lot of prowess with, and expectations were high for him, and we're into year 3 now, and it's not looking good for him. And with, year coming to an end, contract year, it's kind of looking like this may be the beginning of the end for Mazi. Now, we have some reports from training camp that kind of talk about what's going on and why maybe it's going to be a good season, but in all likelihood, stuff that is happening is really limiting his growth and development. So that's where we kind of start with today's report, talking about Mazi Smith. And this all comes from the same article that we did in a previous video, talking about the stock up and stock down in the Dallas Cowboys after week 1 of the training camp. And, well, Mazi Smith, as we just mentioned, his stock is for sure going down at this current time. So we talk about it with the first one. Jesse Hay of Blogging with the Boys puts out this, saying, quote, "With reports that Smith is again losing weight and working towards more of a 3-tech role, it's starting to feel like the beginning of the end for the former first rounder. This is what they tried to do with him as a rookie, which didn't bear fruit. And then last year, they beefed him up to play 1-tech, end quote." So before I go too far, I'm just going to make sure everybody knows what exactly I'm talking about with the 2-tech and the 1-tech. Here's the full-on explanation. So, a 0-tech guy is a guy who is going to be the nose guard. He'll face the center. A 1-tech guy, he's going to be on the outside of the shoulder of the center, so he'll be the inner guard. And then obviously the 3-tech guy, he's going to be on the outside part. Now, this is an interesting part because if you think about the way the Cowboys are going to align their guys, that inner part of their defensive line, you're going to want to have them facing either way to get double teams. So, for instance, Mazi Smith at the defensive tackle position. The 0, he's not going to line up at the 0. Cowboys usually don't have anybody lining up at the 0 because that's just not the way they have. They have 4 defensive linemen most of the time. So you're going to have the 2-tech where you're going to, or 3-tech where you're going to be aiming, or 2-tech rather, where you're aiming inward, but that most likely gets you double teams. So if you aim the 3-tech and you're aiming the other way, it's going to limit double teams against you and allow for more agility. Almost in a sense, you're going to have 2 edges on that side, but you're going to have one in the interior part of the defensive line. So that's something that's very interesting to me because, again, we go back to this picture of Mazi Smith from his rookie year. This guy is not small, and they beefed him up a little bit to try and make him that 2-tech guard, and now they're going back on their word to go back to the 3-tech guard, so, or rather 1-tech to 3-tech. It's a weird thing because, again, it's a change for Mazi Smith that he's had to do a couple times now, and Blogging with the Boys, Jesse says it best. Now we're bouncing back the other way, and all of this indecision means a lack of continuity and a harder time developing, end quote. Which is the truth. When you are switching from position to position, it makes it to where you're not going to be able to stick at one end and be able to immediately kind of develop at that position. And it's the same position at the end of the day. Yes, you're going to be playing on the defensive line, but it's different in the sense of how you play it because there's different ways you're going to use your hands. There's different ways you're going to go about looking at the offensive line and scheme some of that. There's different ways that you're going to use your feet and your agility and your body weight. Like it's a completely different role than most people realize. And so having Mazi Smith switch back and forth is not great, especially when he hasn't been good in the NFL. I mean, even last year we go to his rankings, he was 207th among overall in the PFF grade in 219 defensive linemen. 59th in snap count, played a lot of snaps. So the fact that his PFF grade was that low is kind of concerning considering how many snaps he played. His pressures were middle of the pack. His tackles were, pretty solid. But again, I think the tackles go more back to the snap count. But when I'm looking at PFF grades, I'm looking at the actual grade because that's the under the hood stuff. That's the stuff that, yeah, the stats are there. Maybe they're not great, but if the PFF grade is good, you usually have like a lot of stuff and intangibles you can look for. But when that PFF grade is that low, it is not something that you're ready for, excited for, and really tough thing for the Cowboys to kind of look at and say, okay, we want to keep this guy. I mean, yeah, the only reason right now that the Cowboys are like, oh, let's keep him, well, it's because he was a first round pick, and you usually want to hit on those. And this may be one where the Cowboys don't hit. And, if it is, so be it. But this is such an important year for him. And it's tough because he's going to be asked to do a couple different things. But if he's not able to do it, they're going to label it as his fault. It's not going to be the organization's. He's got to be able to mold and form to what the Cowboys need. And if he doesn't, well, sayonara. Now, we do have one last thing, and this is an interesting part and a kind of intangible that we didn't exactly throw out there. This is a new defensive coaching staff. So maybe they have a better vision for what Smith will do once he makes his transition. But obviously, Osa, he's going to be your primary rushing defensive tackle. And then Solomon Thomas here, he's going to be your backup. Now, you have to wonder, of course, with this, how many snaps is Mazzi going to even get? I just showed you he was getting a lot of snaps last year. But what about this upcoming year? Because there's a lot more depth on that defensive line when we take a look and kind of see that this defensive tackle room is in a very good spot. I like what we've seen from Osa, Solomon Thomas coming from the Jets. I really like that he can come in here and also play that defensive tackle position. Everybody else is kind of an interesting part to me. Jay, I think, could be a good part, but I haven't seen enough from him at camp just yet to label him as a potential starter. I think Solomon has the better shot of taking over Mazzi in some way. So obviously, this is not the final depth chart. In fact, this is probably not even the real depth chart in a lot of ways, but it's something to kind of base off how many players we have and suggestions for where they might end up when the regular season comes around. So for Mazzi, it's a tough part because, again, you're switching out your position and it's going to not be fun for you, but you've got to be able to mold and adapt. Otherwise, your position could easily be gone very soon. Now, the second guy on the stock down sheet is offensive tackle Terence Steele. And I mentioned this is not because of his play, but it's because he got injured. And that's where we go into the quote here saying, this is not about anything Steele's done on the field, but that he's now going to be missed from doing it due to a high ankle sprain. Now, it may only be a few days, according to reports, but that's a valuable time for Steele that he's looking to solidify his starting role, which, again, is very important when you're talking about the Dallas Cowboys because they want to try and fill out this offensive line as quickly and as easy as possible. Right now, Steele has that role on the right tackle, so he is going to be in a good spot. But this injury in a time that the Cowboys want to, figure out that line and figure out if he's willing to or viable for the Dallas Cowboys in the future, it's a hard thing to kind of put in there. Now, we did get this report yesterday. Terence Steele is back at practice. No brace on it, but he was not participating just out of precautionary. But the good thing is he is going to be fine, it looks like, and can continue playing here at training camp and hopefully will be healthy throughout the rest of it. But definitely tough for Terence Steele just because of the contract year and kind of what is going on with him. And that's where we go to the report from Blogging with the Boys, Jess Heine saying, quote, this season is crucial for the 60-year veteran. The Cowboys have a good out from his contract in 2026, shaving $8.7 million off the cap. But he's still just 28 and could earn continued loyalty with a strong performance. Given the stakes, anything that could impede his progress is of extra concern, end quote. And that's what I'm saying. It may not be exactly a contract year, but I think Steele has to think of it that way because it is a very easy out for this Dallas Cowboys team to say, you know what, we can cut in next year. It cuts off $8 million, and we obviously know Micah will need some money. We just signed Ferguson, so that's going to take some money away from Micah. There is a lot of money moving around right now. So if Steele is not the caliber they want, they could easily let him go. And so that's something that is obviously in the back of mind in Terence Steele. And it stings because his stock is not down because he's performing bad. It's just because he hasn't performed because he hasn't been out there. He got injured with that ankle sprain pretty much right away. So the hope is he's back out there. As we mentioned in this report, he should be back at training camp from now on. And hopefully this is kind of the last training camp injury we'll have to see because we saw George Pickens go down, although he immediately got back up. Just kind of maybe a stinger for him. But again, training camp is a good thing, but we've seen ACL tears. We've seen stuff, and I don't want any injuries at all. There's a lot of stuff left for this Cowboys team. Getting Jake Ferguson signed was great. I would love to have, love to have not Mika. What am I saying? Micah, and right now it's looking less and less likely. So I don't know. There's a lot to talk about. We'll see what happens, and obviously there is a lot left to report. But we appreciate you watching. Let me know your thoughts on Mazi Smith. Do you think his time in Dallas is done, or do you still believe? Do you still think he can be a top-tier defensive tackle for the Dallas Cowboys? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. And for now, we'll see you next time here on Cowboys Digest. Peace out, guys.